Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Life Coach D coming at you. And I'm coming at you today with something to think about, but this is definitely under the category of spiritual food for thought. So as I continue on this exposing so-called Christians who are being hypocritical and who are being very judgmental against other believers, but yet they seem to have no judgment and no critical thoughts as it pertains to somebody who is literally a walking contradiction of what it means to be a believer or a person of faith. So as I continue with these videos, I'm just going to continue to point out the hypocrisy, and I'm going to continue to point out all of the things that are just contradictory and hypocritical. I wanted to share a couple more videos. One is Reverend Al Sharpton, who is definitely a civil rights authority. He's also an ordained minister, and he gives some different perspective on what it means and what it looks like today to be a believer, to be somebody who believes in standing up for people and standing up for the marginalized community, but yet he's also being judged. Check this out.
To turn briefly this morning to the book of Exodus, 13th chapter, 3rd verse. Exodus, 13th chapter, 3rd verse. And it reads, Moses said to the people, remember this day on which you came out of Egypt, out of the house of slavery, because the Lord brought you out from there by the strength of hand. No leavened bread shall be eaten. I want to use for a thought this morning, selective amnesia. Selective amnesia. As many of you know, I host a television show on Saturdays and Sundays and do others during the week and have a daily radio show. And it amazes me when I get calls, as we are now in election season, where people of African descent, black folks, Negroes, colors, whatever you prefer, call in and act as though we always had the right to vote. I mean, they sit back and analyze like all they had to do was be born and all their rights were there. And the reason it bothers me so is it has happened, the fight to put us where we are has happened in our lifetime. This wasn't something hundreds of years ago. Many of our mothers and fathers could not vote. Our grandparents didn't even think about voting. So here we are inheriting something that was not inherent in the foundings of this country. The founders of the country never intended that we be treated as full citizens. The founders, they put in law. You know, there's a lot of people, I know in Texas there's a lot of controversy around immigration, and I'm against discrimination, though I don't think everybody need to be doing what they're doing. But we're the only ones in the country that by law said blacks couldn't do certain things. That was in the law. By law, we had to sit in the back of the bus. By law, we couldn't use the toilet downtown. By law, we couldn't eat in certain restaurants. It wasn't ambiguous, it was by law. Which is why we had to change the law. Andrew Johnson, as president of the United States, Andrew Jackson, put on the bench nominated for Chief Justice of the Supreme Court a man named Judge Taney. Taney was the one that presided over the court that ruled in the Dred Scott decision, saying the blacks had no right, that a white was bound to respect because we were not full citizens. That's what Judge Taney's court said, nominated by Andrew Jackson. When Donald Trump became president in 2016, the only picture he hung up new in the Oval Office was a picture of President Andrew Jackson. I'm not telling you who to vote for, but I'm just giving you the facts. Then you got others on the other side. Well, voting don't mean nothing. Well, if it don't mean nothing, why is everybody trying to take our vote? Somebody broke in your house, they're not going to take your dirty wash rag. They're going to look for valuables, money, jewelry. People don't take anything from you unless it's of value. Then you got those with a master's degree in ignorance. That say, well, I'm not into politics. I got a friend in Harlem, gotten older now, saw me in the street not long ago. Remel, I hear you out there, radio and TV talking all that about voting. I'm not in the system. I don't believe in the system. That don't mean nothing. And blah, 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 blah. And start quoting all radical stuff we used to read when we were kids. And we talked about 20 minutes back and forth. Finally, he said, well, let me go. I gotta go down here and check on my Social Security's check. I said, I thought you wasn't in the system. They were enslaved 400 years. Had to make brick with no straw. Had to work with no wages. Just like us. And God sent a leader. Sent Moses. Now watch this real quick, because a lot of us get this wrong. Moses was raised in Pharaoh's house. It was at a time where the edict was to kill the newborn Israelite babies, male babies. This whole idea of wiping out generations didn't start in the United States. It goes back in history. Every time those in power feel threatened, they come with these schemes to wipe folk out. With us, it's been drugs, it's been crack, it's been promiscuous living, breaking down our families. It's all designed to wipe out those that can grow up and become the challenges of what's going on. Some of us understand that. Some of us was born in the hood, born around debauchery. But somehow God grabbed our basket and brought us another way. We wasn't supposed to be where we ended up. But God raised us in houses that was foreign to us to give us the skills to do what needed to be done. So Moses was raised in Pharaoh's house. Pharaoh had dinner not knowing he was dining and raising the liberator. But unlike many of us, when Moses became knowledgeable of who he was, it bothered him. Some of us get downtown and try to act like we are not who we are. That's why I use the subject today, selective amnesia. Not automatic amnesia, selective. You get down in them corporate offices, get you a little title with no function. I'm the vice president of irrelevance. I'm the senior executive with no budget. Just big title. And you forget where you come from. Now there's legitimate amnesia. But then there's selective amnesia.
So that was Reverend Al Sharpton that you just heard. And he was talking about selective amnesia. I don't know if I put this part of the video in, but he talked about the book of Exodus being a whole civil rights movement and how that was God's mission even then, was standing up for people who have been done unjustly. Now, I will definitely talk about Reverend Raphael Warnock next as he's being crucified. And if you refer to the video that I did, the first part of this, you will see where he was being crucified and his salvation being questioned, etc., so on, by a group of black pastors. Sure and utter nonsense. But anyway, I thought he had a good interview on the Late Night Show with Jimmy Kimmel. So check this out and I'll be back.
Now, Marjorie Taylor Greene, I know, is also from Georgia. She did you apologize on behalf of Democrats for sending the hurricane to your own state? Because it seems like a very self-destructive thing for you and the Democratic Party to do.
I pray for her every day.
Do you really pray for her specifically every day?
I do.
You do?
I do. Representing people is no small thing. I consider it the honor of my life. For the people of your state, to say that as we take stock of our lives, as we look into the eyes of our children, think about what we want for them, as we see our aging parents as they deal with both the blessings and the burdens of getting older, we're going to send you to Washington. And we're going to trust that in rooms of power, where deals are cut, that at the end of the day, you're going to be thinking about us. That's a sacred trust. It's the honor of my life. And I'm honored to do it on behalf of the people of Georgia.
And as a pastor as well, I would imagine, I mean, you can tell me, is it being a pastor something that helps you reach across the aisle? Is that something that makes the people on the other side of the aisle more open to you reaching?
Well, here's the thing about being a pastor. You know, you get to pick your church, but we take whoever shows up. Right? So in my Baptist tradition, every Sunday after the sermon, I literally say the doors of the church are open, which means whosoever will, let them come. And I've tried to take that same spirit with me to Washington, D.C. I'm listed as one of the most bipartisan senators in the Senate. I do a lot of work with Republicans. I've done work with Tommy Tuberville to help farmers in Georgia and in Alabama, although he and I disagree about 96% of the time. Mm-hmm. I've worked with Marco Rubio to deal with the issue of maternal mortality. There are way too many women dying in the United States of America just trying to bring a baby into the world. Among wealthy nations, we have the dubious distinction of outstripping everybody. And for black women, it's 3 to 4 times the rate of their white sisters. And so I said to Marco Rubio, if you're pro-life, how about let's save the lives of these women? And you know, this terrible situation has gotten worse now as we've seen these extreme abortion bans in Georgia, as Donald Trump is taking credit, as he should, for overthrowing Roe v. Wade. We had a young woman in Georgia, Amber Thurman, a young mother. She had a 6-year-old son, and she needed a basic medical care, you know, that they do every single day, a DNC. And she didn't get it done. She was laying in the hospital for 20 hours. Why? Because the doctors were somewhere on a dilemma between their Hippocratic oath and the reality that they might be imprisoned. And there she was, languishing in this dilemma created by male politicians. And this young woman literally lost her life. She should be alive today. I did a press conference earlier today with her family. There are no words for that. And so here's what I believe. I get some grief from folks who think that they own the meaning of the gospel. Mm-hmm. I am a pro-choice pastor. I think that on this question, the issue is not what you personally think about abortion. The issue is whose decision is it? And what we are seeing in real time is that regardless of your view on this, the medicine and the science is clearly more complicated and more complex than the politics. doctors are having to make these decisions every day. Women are faced with these issues every day, and that's why I believe that a patient's room is too small and cramped a space for a woman, her doctor, in the United States government.
How did the GOP manage to cast itself as the party of Christianity? And do you believe Jesus would be a Republican?
Look, I'll tell you, I'm a Matthew 25 Christian. I believe that the acid test of your faith is the depth of your commitment to the poor and the most marginalized members of the human family. And so my faith is what guides me in the work that I'm doing. I think Democrats make a mistake when they allow the other side to own the language around faith and values. My faith causes me to reach out to the poor. It causes me to hear people who are struggling and to build what Dr. King called the beloved community. My faith is not a weapon, it's a bridge. As black men, as the black community, as all of us, people of moral courage, take stock of Donald Trump. Here's a man who early in his career was found by the Justice Department to discriminate against people of color when it came to renting his apartments. Here's the man who took out a full-page ad in the New York Times when 5 young men of color were accused of a heinous crime. He said they ought to receive the death penalty. And years later, when we found out that the Central Park 5 were innocent, they became the exonerated 5. Donald Trump has never apologized to them, has never shown any contrition. And he literally rode into politics on a racist birther lie that Barack Obama was not born here. It was another way of saying you're not one of us. We know what this is all about. And so I think as black men take stock of that, contrast his record to Kamala Harris, who is a prosecutor rather than prosecuting folks to the extent of the law around marijuana possession, for example. She found ways to try to give them a path, a second chance. And now she's pushing for the legalization of cannabis. She's trying to, I think it's a good idea. I support cannabis legalization. I'm not looking for any myself, but
this video of Raphael Warnock, who is also a believer. He's a minister and he is a congressman who is actually being judged and criticized by a lot of people. Once again, people are questioning his salvation. They're questioning who he is and his moral authority. But as I said before, yet they're completely quiet and they want to make somebody who is just pro-abortion. Really, he's kind of backing off on that now. But they want to back up and not have any criticism against a person who everybody's trying to make a man of God or a believer. And he said out of his own mouth these words.
Wrote The Power of Positive Thinking, which is a great book.
But have you ever asked God for forgiveness?
I'm not sure I have. I just go and try and do a better job from there. I don't think so.
So there you have both Reverend Al Sharpton and Raphael Warnock speaking on behalf of civil rights and people's right to choose. As an ordained minister myself, and having had this stance for a while now, really when I took account of my life and really began to look at what my vertical relationship with God really looked like, and I separated church from religion, from all of the dogma and things that we were suppressed under and we were taught, I realized that at the end of the day, Christ gives us a choice. God sent his son to be an atonement for us, and he gives us the right to choose him. He will never make us choose him. He will never make us do anything. And so I think it's just incredible that Christians are taking the punk way out, in my own opinion, and wanting to let the government do the job of loving on people and ministering to people and helping people through tough situations and decisions, when at the end of the day, there's only one God that we all will answer to. So that is my stance. And so for all of the ignorant people, including black pastors who are bringing all these accusations and allegations against people like Reverend Al Sharpton and Reverend Raphael Warnock, I think it's just preposterous. And I think they need to go back and check themselves and realize that they don't have a heaven or hell to put anybody in. And that the first commandment is that we're to love the Lord God with our whole heart, soul, mind, and our strength, and our neighbors as ourselves. That is the greatest thing we could ever offer society. Alrighty, so as I continue on with the shenanigans of this political environment and arena, wait till you see this. I'm going to give you a sneak preview into my next episode. But listen to this nonsense here by the son of a disgraced pastor by the name of Don Swaggart.
Now, I'm fixing to make some people mad right now. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to be, for the statement I'm about to make, I'm going to be called a racist. And I will be called every name under the sun. But somebody needs to stand up and speak to the black church.
Oh, yeah, you heard it right. So you think that's controversial with this white pastor call himself wagging his finger at the black church? There's nothing more better than one white evangelical making a whole bunch of black pastors mad so they become unified. So the first video I showed you was a whole bunch of black pastors going against other black preachers. Now, as this series continues, you're going to see the unification of black pastors coming together to combat racism in the white evangelical church today. Stay tuned for the next episode. Until you guys hear from me again, remember your lives are very valuable. Much love, God bless, and peace be the journey.